Good afternoon. I'm Ron Smith from the OBIC Bioproducts Innovation Center. Thank you for joining the OBIC Bioproduct Network in our latest Bioproducts Commercialization webinar. Today's webinar will cover the impacts of the recently signed Farm Bill for the bioproducts industry. We are very fortunate to have key policy staff from both USDA and the U.S. Senate Agriculture today. Denny Hall will serve as our moderator for our questions at the end of the presentation. Before we start, let me highlight two logistical issues. If you haven't already done so, please mute your audio connection so we don't have any audio interference or feedback in the middle. And secondly, if you'd like to ask a question of our speakers during the three presentations, please use either the chat box at the top of the screen, or if you would send an email to schrader.191@osu.edu, and we will jot those questions down and get them to our speakers at the end. With that, I'd like to begin our program by introducing our first speaker for the afternoon. First speaker, Brandon, is the Senior Professional Staff Member for the U.S. Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry. Brandon has served in this role since 2009. He works on issues related to rural development, research, and energy. With that, Brandon, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and talk about the energy title. If you guys want to move to the first slide there. We worked on the Farm Bill over the course of 3 years, and a lot of the focus obviously was on the commodity programs and some attention on the nutrition programs as well. But the energy title was a top priority for Chairwoman Stabenow, and something that we spent a lot of time focusing on and trying to support. I'm going to let the slide get pulled up.
Yeah, Brandon, give me just a second here. For some reason this picked up into and I don't know how this happened this time, but it kind of got pulled in with a different font. And so let me...
Is it all white? Yeah, it's all white. It's all white.
Hang on just a second. Everything up there.
I can get that now.
You know, it's funny because on my computer, Brandon, it looks absolutely fine. For some reason, when it came into this computer that we're using today for the presentation, it came in at this different font style. So,
no, looks like we've got it worked out.
Yeah.
So really, from our perspective, the energy title gave us a great opportunity to support job creation in rural America. One of the big focuses for us was with the expiration of the 2008 Farm Bill, none of the energy title programs had funding. So there was a difference between the House and Senate on whether just to authorize the programs and allow the Appropriations committees to make funding decisions every year, or to do to take the Senate position, which was to put some mandatory funding in it. And we were able to do that. We put $900 million into the title, and we feel like those are going to be some really good investments that are going to support a lot of job creation, we feel like. So if you want to move to the first slide, we'll get started with the Biobased Markets Program. The slide you see there, we made some basic changes to the authorizing language for the program, allowing USDA to establish a targeted number of bio-based procurement requirements, improving some of the reporting on purchases from agencies and things like that. But the real issue that we had to address in the Biobased Markets Program was related to forest products. In recent years, there's been a lot of concern from those in the forest products industry that due to some rulemaking and regulations that USDA had developed related to the program, that their products were not eligible. And we were sympathetic to that in the Senate up to a certain point. We wanted to keep the focus of the program on new innovation and not just allowing products in that had already had an established market. And so we included language in the Farm Bill that while it makes it clear that forest products are eligible, we also direct USDA to look at some mechanism for innovation in the process of how those products are developed. And that way, we feel like we can keep the spirit of this program, which is to support new and innovative markets, but also help those that are working in the forest products industry to feel like they have equal access to the program, I guess. So that was the big issue that we tackled related to 9002. I think if you want to move to the next slide, another key component of the energy title for us was authorizing renewable chemical and bio-based manufacturing activities as an eligible activities under the Biorefinery Assistance Program. This is a loan program that has supported job creation since it received funding in 2008 in the 2008 Farm Bill. So the issue for us was how do we get bio-based manufacturing into this, and that was something that we took up on the Senate side, and were able to convince our colleagues in the House to support as well. On the mandatory funding side, we put $200 million into the program. Again, it's a loan program, and I believe our friends from USDA can speak to this a little bit more later, but I believe that the OMB calculates a subsidy rate for each of these loans each time USDA is working with someone to fund a project. So I'm not sure exactly how far that $200 million will go in terms of supporting loan guarantees, but it will go farther than that initial investment. There were some concerns both in the Senate with our Senate colleagues and with some in the House that including these new activities in the program would kind of overwhelm the program, and you would lose the essence of the Biorefinery Assistance Program. So there is a cap on how much of the funding USDA can use to support bio-based manufacturing. We set it at 15% of the total funding for FY14 and FY15. And the way that we broke the funding out, there's $100 million available in FY14, and $50 million is available in both FY15 and FY16. So it does take some time for USDA to work with applicants in developing applications and going through the process that they have to go through to approve something. So hopefully those rules and regulations, to the degree that they need to be updated to accommodate the bio-based manufacturing component of this, will be done later this year, and USDA can get start working with folks on applications. So that's the brief overview in the Bio-Based Markets Program and Biorefinery Assistance Program, and I look forward to answering your questions here at the end.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Appreciate all of the effort that no doubt you were working on for several years to actually facilitate this Farm Bill, and we really appreciate the work that you've done specifically relative to bio-based products. So thank you for that overview presentation. And if you have questions, please submit them via chat or via email. So while Ron's introducing our next speaker, see if well, it looks like the rest of this is looking okay. So hopefully we're all right. Ron, take it away.
All right, thank you. With that, I'd like to introduce Jeff Goodman. Jeff serves as the Chief of USDA's Environmental Management Division. His responsibilities include directing the BioPreferred program to increase government and commercial sales of bio-based products, overseeing the department's sustainability programs, such as energy and water conservation, and managing USDA's hazardous materials management program, focused principally on Superfund cleanups. Jeff is an environmental engineer with 40 years of experience. Prior to joining USDA 9 years ago, he worked for 23 years as an environmental consultant. During this time, he managed a wide variety of projects for both public and private clients, including environmental policy analysis, hazardous waste site investigations, and conducted over 700 environmental due diligence audits of manufacturing facilities in most major industrial categories. Jeff began his career at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, where he developed strategies to implement the Clean Water Act, a legislative proposal for Superfund, and approaches to hazardous waste management regulations under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. And with that, Jeff, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to extend a thank you to Brandon before I got started. During the course of the development process of the 2014 Farm Bill, the Senate staff had a lot of various agricultural constituents to work with and satisfy, but they always took the time to cycle back with USDA staff because they were intent on making sure that whatever legislative language they came up with, that the programs would be workable within USDA. And so we had a chance to meet with Brandon both on the phone and in person over a series of meetings to make sure that what we got would work. And I think the language that evolved on the Biobased Markets program is something that we are comfortable is workable and doable. So thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
My presentation today is kind of a repeat of some of the slides that we used at a Farm Bill listening session that our program had a couple of weeks ago. So fair warning, if you were on that listening session, prepare to be bored over the next few minutes. The presentation has three parts to it. There's a kind of an introductory propaganda piece that talks about some of the benefits of our program and why it makes sense to pursue it, which I'll blow through pretty quickly because I want to focus more on the last two parts of the presentation, kind of a program status of where we are on the Biobased Markets program and how the various elements work, and finally the amendments in the 2014 Farm Bill and what our plans are for implementing those. So there are a number of both market and consumer-based reasons why we think the Biobased Market program makes a lot of sense, and I'm not going to go through each of these. I'll let you read them on the slides. But we believe that the program is an important part of the bioeconomy and can be an important part of producing a sustainable economy that brings wealth to rural America, as well as providing important products that meet consumer demands. Let's go to the next slide. These are some of the market conditions that favor bio-based chemicals and the manufactured products that are derived from them. Let's go to the next slide. So the definition of a bio-based product is one that's composed of recent biological components, and those biological components can be agricultural, forestry, or marine-based. Next slide, please. Our secretary talks about four of the key federal interests in bio-based products and why they're important: energy, environmental, economic, and food related. And this is a program that, happily for me, is a very important one to the secretary and one he talks about frequently when he is out and about. Next slide. So the existing program that we've got, and this will survive into the 2014 Farm Bill amendments, consists of two major pieces. There's a federal procurement preference program that's designed to take advantage of the federal marketplace, and a voluntary labeling program that's aimed more at commercial and consumer markets. Both elements of the program are designed to increase the acquisition of bio-based products by creating market demand. Next slide, please. So the federal procurement preference program works as follows. USDA designates categories of bio-based products by rule, and once we do that, those designated products, any individual products that fall within those categories, receive a federal preference over their non-bio-based counterparts. and the preference applies equally to direct government purchases as well as federal service contracts. So, for example, if a federal agency hires a janitorial services contractor to come in and clean their building at night, the requirements to show that bio-based product preference apply to the contractor, and they should be using bio-based cleaners in fulfilling the contract obligations. So far, over a course of 10 rules, USDA has designated 97 product categories representing over 10,000 individual products, and we will continue the process of designating additional categories, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Next slide, please. So every time we designate a category, and this table has an example of some of those categories, we also designate a minimum bio-based content. And the preference applies to any of the individual products in that category that meet or exceed the minimum content. And that minimum content reflects a balance between what's technologically available and what will produce products that will perform well in the marketplace. So you see a pretty wide variety of minimum percentages ranging from not so large to almost 100%. And these are driven, again, in large measure because of performance. We don't want to force this preference on the people and have the products not perform well because they won't succeed in the marketplace over the long term. Next slide, please. So the other part of our program is a voluntary labeling program. Next slide. And this is at the behest of bio-based product manufacturers or vendors who believe it would be a market advantage to have our label on their products. The language there, USDA certified bio-based product, is congressionally mandated. We launched the program about 3 years ago, and it serves as an objective indicator of bio-based content. We formed a partnership with ASTM International, who's our independent third-party certifier. And the reason we did that is we're certifying bio-based content that's measured using an ASTM International laboratory standard. So this is all part of a partnership that helps maximize the credibility of the label. Next slide, please. In the 3 years that we've had the label program underway, we've gotten about 2,500 applications from almost 600 companies. We've certified about 1,600 products, and we've got about 800 applications in the process. You heard Brandon talking about the expiration of the 2008 Farm Bill and the absence of funding. Our label program ran out of money. Last year, our secretary found some internal funding within USDA, and we were able to turn on the label program for a while. We ran out of funds again in January, and I'm very pleased to report that I just got the email, actually after the webinar started, that we've gotten the apportionment that we needed from OMB, which triggered some internal steps within USDA to get the funding actually active, and our funding just got turned on like 10 minutes ago, and we can begin to get our label program back up and running and use that money to fund the rest of our activities. So
Jeff, should we all take a moment here and applaud?
If you like.
Well, congratulations. We're happy for you.
Yeah, we had a lot of people helped us along the way, but we've finally gotten there. So next slide, please. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because Brandon gave you kind of a good setup about some of the key amendments here. And as he mentioned, there was a big focus on forest products as well as other kinds of products that have been around for a long time, but with a focus on those that have been grown, harvested, or produced in an innovative fashion to keep the original intent of this part of the Farm Bill alive. We're also being asked to begin designating intermediate bio-based feedstocks and ingredients. These are the building blocks of manufactured products, and as well as finished bio-based products within 1 year. These latter category would be what we call complex assembly products that are made up of multiple heterogeneous components that together are not easily measured by the ASTM international standard. We also have an economic impact study to conduct, and very happily, thanks to the Senate Agriculture Committee and Senator Stabenow's leadership, we got a raise. We got our mandatory funding, which had been at $2 million a year in the 2008 Farm Bill, increased to $3 million a year. So next slide, please. So with respect to our plan to implement these amendments, the first two amendments I talked about in the last slide, the beginning to designate intermediate and complex products and beginning to include forests and other innovatively produced mature products, will require some regulations for full implementation. But we're going to be able to do this in phases. The direction from Congress to begin designating intermediates and complex assembly products is actually a holdover from the 2008 Farm Bill, and we had proposed a rule in 2012 that would let us begin to do those designations of intermediates and the complex products. We've taken public comments. We've drafted a final rule, which is in the clearance process in USDA, and after it clears USDA, it'll go over to OMB for a 90-day regulatory review, and we hope to have that finalized no later than September. I'm actually hoping we can get it done a little bit sooner than that. One of the things that final rule does, and we had drafted this actually prior to the passage of the 2014 Farm Bill, in anticipation of that passage, we've removed the language in our program guidelines that excluded excluded a lot of forest products and some of the other mature market products. So when this rule gets finalized this summer, it will eliminate the barrier to those other products. If you can flip to the next slide, we're going to have to add by regulation a process to determine whether these previously excluded products have been grown, harvested, or produced in an innovative fashion to determine their eligibility. And that will have to go through a full rulemaking process of proposing rules, taking public comment, and finally finalizing rules, and that will take some time. However, once that proposed rule from 2012 that I talked about on the previous slide goes final this summer, we will be able to, hold on just a sec. Sorry, we have power saving on our computers, and I didn't touch my keyboard, and it just turned off, so I just got my slides back. Once this 2012 proposed rule goes final this summer, we will be able to evaluate products on a case-by-case basis for innovation, and the Farm Bill directs us to work with the Forest Service Forest Products Laboratory to do that. And we've begun a dialogue with the Forest Products Lab. We've actually been working with them over the past several years because we had approved almost 50 forest products for our label that did meet the requirements of the 2008 Farm Bill. So we're going to continue to work with this partnership, develop a process for determining innovation of wood products, and we will begin to, once the rule goes final this summer, begin to add wood products to both parts of our program and do that on a case-by-case basis. And then when the rules catch up, we'll have a more defined process to do that a little bit more smoothly. The funding will also let us get started on our economic impact study, and as I mentioned earlier, begin our labeling program to resume. We've got to get our contract with the ASM International turned back on, but I'm hoping we can do that in a matter of days and have our label program up and running hopefully before a week is out. That's kind of a quick overview of the program, its status, and our plans of the new Farm Bill amendments.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Dr. Tony Crooks, who is the Renewable Energy Policy Specialist with USDA Rural Development. Tony helps to administrate the 2008 Farm Bill Title 9 energy programs for advanced biofuels and renewable energy. He has written extensively on the biofuels industry since the mid-1990s. His most recent publications discuss a series of business and financial models to encourage rural area investment in advanced biofuels and an in-depth series on the role of information technology in the ethanol industry. Tony provides renewable energy technical assistance to agricultural producers and rural businesses. He also conducts research upon important production, policy, and marketing issues that pertain to advanced biofuels and the road to energy independence. Tony grew up on the Great Plains of West Texas, the son of 3 generations of cotton sharecroppers and cooperative board members. He received a BS and MS in agricultural economics from the University of Arizona and a PhD in agricultural and applied economics from the University of Minnesota. And with that, Tony, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for the invitation. Bear down, Arizona. Just a note, I don't know if this is happening for everybody else, but it's taking my screen a while to refresh between screens. Is that happening for everybody else? Should I allow for that? Or is it coming up the same for everybody as it is for me? Like just now I have my intro screen up.
Maybe if it's an issue for anybody else, if you could just post that on chat, that would be great. It looks fine here in Columbus, but that may not be the same for everybody else. So
maybe it's just me, and if that's the case, then we'll just proceed. So again, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate following Brandon and Jeff. I think it's a very it flows very nicely just to discuss just the overall legislation, and then to talk about the Biobased Markets Program, and now we'll talk about Biorefinery Assistance. So advance the next slide, please. Let's just take a quick look back at the 2008 Farm Bill, and it's still trying to refresh for me. There it is. And the 2008 Farm Bill was $1.1 billion, and a very strong expression of Congress's commitment and intention to establish a sustainable biofuels industry. And you see these 9 programs and the substantial amount of funding, and we make note of the fact that this is mandatory funding that was provided, which for those of us in governmentees, that means no year money, which means it's available until expended. In general, funds are provided for the fiscal year, and if a program doesn't expend those funds, it goes back to the Treasury. So in this case, this money is available until it's obligated, until it's used. So let's go to the next slide.
we've advanced here, so sorry.
So it's just now coming up. I'll just start talking and it'll fill in as I go. as I said, this is Congress's intention to truly establish this industry from all across the value chain, from feedstock production, and that goes all the way back up the chain to genetic material in the R&D effort, to the stand establishment, to feedstock logistics and conversion, in which rural development is integrally involved with, even in distribution, perhaps not so much, and in use we even made an effort to do for a couple of years there. There have been some changes in the new law that prevent us from doing that, but Congress has made it really clear that they're wanting they've made a very strong commitment to this value chain. Let's advance it. Now, the reason that rural development is involved with these projects and with this industry is because we see this as a very concrete way for us to bring wealth to rural Americans, improve their quality of life. These projects have a multiplier effect in rural areas, and we are very strongly committed to them in that regard. Next slide, please. Rural Business Cooperative Program administers 4 of the Farm Bill programs. The Biorefinery Assistance, which I'm going to talk specifically about, Repowering Assistance, and Advanced Biofuels Payment Program, and the REAP, which most everybody is aware of. Advance the slide, please. So let's talk in a very specific way about Biorefinery Assistance. Advance the slide ahead, please. That was just my separator.
Okay. All set.
So the Biorefinery Assistance Program provides a loan guarantee of up to $250 million for the construction and retrofitting of commercial-scale biorefineries using eligible technology for the development of advanced biofuels. This was the provision in the 2008 Farm Bill, and they provided $75 million mandatory funds, a total of $255 million, 75 in 2009 and 245 in 2010. Again, that was available till expended. And next slide, please. And as with all federal programs, as we work to administer this, we have to publish a regulation and to inform the public as to how we will be administering this program. And we have to allow the public to provide us comments on how they would like to see this happening. And we have to accommodate that. And as a result of it, we promulgated the changes in 2010 and finally published our interim rule in February of 2011. And these are the most significant changes that we had to accommodate. And then I don't want to talk about those specifically, but just the process itself, what's required. It's important to note that we have to, first of all, publish our understanding of how Congress wanted us to manage this program and give the public a chance to respond to that and try to accommodate public comment within the law. And that's exactly what we'll be doing as we go forward with the 2014 law. Advance the next slide.
Okay.
So you're up. So it's still trying to come in. So this is our track record. I'm at, there we go. Slide 9, yep, okay. So this is our basically our history for the 9003 program under the 2008 Farm Bill. We received between 2009 and 2012 32 applications distributed across these technologies and feedstocks and advanced biofuel production. You can see it's quite diverse in all those forms, both all technologies and feedstocks and fuel produced. The Farm Bill provides electricity as an advanced biofuel and so we anaerobic digestion is an eligible technology under 9003, and we also did a considerable amount of thermochem and biochem, as well as thermochem biochem hybrids throughout that. And one thing that I want to also point out of this is of these 32 applications, we had to return 17 because there was no lender included in the application. And just as a reminder that this is not a direct loan from the federal government, but a guarantee of the loan that the borrower acquires from a lender in order to develop this project. And so we come in and provide a guarantee of up to 90% of that loan. Next slide, please. And this is our track record. We've issued to date 4 loan note guarantees, and we have awarded, in addition to that, 6 conditional commitments, which is our commitment to issue the loan note guarantee at execution of the project if the borrower satisfies the conditions that we establish that are precedent to that. You'll know most of you are aware of the first one, the out of the gate that we stumbled on and has since gone into liquidation. But we also have 3 other projects that we're quite proud of. Sapphire Energy in New Mexico has already paid in full the loan on its $54.5 million obligation and returned to us the loan note guarantee paid in full. INEOS New Planet Bioenergy is the first cellulosic ethanol producer in the United States, and they're on schedule to produce 1 million gallons of cellulosic ethanol this year. And Fremont Community Digester is a anaerobic digester in Fremont, Michigan that has a partnership with Gerber Baby Food, and most of its food waste is going into Fremont, and they're generating almost 4 megs of electricity as a product of this project. And some of you are, Interchem and Coscata have since withdrawn their application, but I'm sure many of you are aware of Zeachem in Oregon. It's a very large project. It's doing hybrid poplar plantations and converting that into advanced biofuel. It's cellulosic ethanol as well. And Fulcrum Sierra Biofuels in Nevada is a municipal solid waste to cellulosic ethanol project. And Chemtex in North Carolina is energy grasses that are grown on swine herd spray fields, and that's going to be a biochem enzymatic hydrolysis to cellulosic ethanol. Next slide, please. I'm not seeing it refresh. I'm going to assume it's there.
It's there.
In the 2014, let's see, we issued a notice in in December, and it closed in January, and we received 8 applications. And this is the last of the 2008 money that we'll be spending. We'll be closing the book on 2008 when we award these conditional commitments. We received 8 applications requesting $510 million. We have about $200 million available in loan guarantee authority. And we'll be competing these 5 projects that are distributed in these 4 states. Next slide, please. And so now let's talk about 2014. And as Brandon and Jeff said earlier, it's $900 million for the 5-year duration of the program. It's a little less than what we saw in 2008. Nevertheless, I thought it was a strong commitment given current financial and economic circumstances, and Congress really expressed, again, their commitment to the programs they saw as contributing to the sustainable biofuels chain and adding this new emphasis on bio-based products. And so now, as a result of that, we're having to turn our attention to how, going forward, how 9003 will discharge its responsibilities in that regard. Let's go to the next slide. So we made the change, Biorefinery Assistance Program, and it has a new name, the Biorefinery Renewable Chemical and Biobased Product Manufacturing Assistance Program, and that's quite a mouthful. I imagine that this will just be 9003 for us from now on. It provides a loan guarantee of $250 million for the construction and retrofitting of commercial-scale biorefineries using eligible technology for the development of advanced biofuels, renewable chemicals, and bio-based product manufacturing. And also, we have this expression of commitment in the form of $200 million available for the duration of the bill or until extended. And this provision, which is about the only guidance that we were given for this new program, this newly named program. And I want to call your attention to the fact that the total amount of funds made available for fiscal years 2014 and 15 under subparagraph A, this is as kind of what Brendan was saying earlier, the Secretary may use for the cost of loan guarantees under this section, not more than 15% of such funds to promote bio-based product manufacturing. So what we have is a new charge from Congress and some guidance, but we are looking for quite a bit more guidance as to how these projects are to be involved in this program. And for example, we see that the statute defines renewable chemicals and bio-based product manufacturing and allows for their development. But as to what's required, how these projects will be competed with advanced biofuel projects, there's not been a lot of guidance with that. On the other hand, we have really strong guidance in the statute with respect to how advanced biofuel projects are competed and how priority is given to certain projects vis-a-vis others. And so what we're doing now as we go forward is we're really consulting with our general counsel on how to proceed and just looking for kind of direction as to how renewable chemicals and bio-based product manufacturing are to be incorporated in the administration of this of this program. And we're, as Jeff was talking about rule promulgation, that's what we'll be doing. And we hope to have ours published again in around September or so in early fall. And we'll have an opportunity, we'll provide an opportunity for the public to comment. And then hopefully shortly thereafter we'll be able to publish a funding notice and release the first amount of the 2014 money. Let's go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to kind of point out and just how much we appreciate our partners at USDA and DOE and EPA, because we can't really administer this program without their assistance. We have folks engaged with us at almost every level from these other agencies. And we, again, it's just impossible for us to move in this program forward without their help. And the final slide, please. And again, the reason that we're engaged with this is because of the wealth that it brings to rural communities and to rural Americans to help improve their quality of life. And I have contact information on this slide. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Tony. With that, we've had some questions. I'm going to turn it over here to Denny Hall, our OBIC director, to work on the question and answer session.
Okay. First off, let's just stay with Tony. So, Tony, to clarify, if I understand correctly, you have $100 million of mandatory funding for the loan guarantee program, of which you cannot exceed 15% for bio-based products or the renewable chemicals area. So does that mean you have basically $15 million then for renewable chemicals and bio-based product manufacturing for fiscal year 2014?
That would be the upper limit, yes. It's not a set aside. If you look at the language in the statute, it's hardly a set aside. It's permission to use up to that amount. Now, Brandon said something about, I wanted to comment on our subsidy level and kind of give you an idea of how many dollars we can leverage on a dollar of what's called budget authority. What Congress was out here, this $100 million in 2014 and $50 million in 15 and 16 subsequently, those are budget authority dollars. And so the amount of loan guarantee authority that we can provide given that amount is from $3 to $4.50 per dollar awarded. So $100 million will leverage it between $300 and $450 million in loan guarantee authority. Depending on, again, as Brandon said, it used to be we had a single subsidy rate for the program. Now each project has to pass through OMB's review, and it gets its own subsidy. But we're based on program parameters. We're saying anywhere from $3 to $4.50.
Okay, that's a helpful addition. Thank you for sharing that. Good. So I'm just curious. Let's assume an example where you have an anaerobic digestion facility that is going to be producing biogas, and that biogas could be used to make electricity. It could be used to make a transportation fuel, or it could be used to make materials. Would you tend to see that, like for example, the loan guarantee that would be associated with the anaerobic digester, would that fall under the kind of the traditional materials or the traditional biofuels area? And then if there were add-on pieces that would to make materials from it, like a plastic or some other type of material, would that then fall under the 15% category? Or would all of that together collectively fall under the 15% category?
Well, I think the short answer to that is that's yet to be determined.
Okay.
That's going to be a part of the rule promulgation, I think. But it's really important to note that, you know, we're already doing anaerobic digesters, and we can already do co-product production under the existing biorefinery program. We always could do that. That's not anything new to us. This is just an explicit establishment of. It seemed to me that Congress wanted to make it clear that we could also do these things, but we under this program. But we have always been able to do that if they produced biofuels, principally. And so that's another question that remains. Does this, if you look at that again, when it talks about 15% of such funds to promote bio-based product manufacturing, is that word promote a proxy for solely renewable chemical for solely project development for renewable chemicals and bio-based product manufacturing? That's kind of another question that lays out there. As we go forward, this is still an advanced biofuel program, and it's for financing those projects. There is provision to do renewable chemicals and bio-based product manufacturing, and we will encourage that at every turn. But there is this emphasis that remains on the production of advanced biofuels that contribute to the renewable fuel standard.
Okay, thank you. But you did kind of remove a 51% requirement, if I understand right, that was one of the shifts that occurred within this particular farm bill.
Was that stated in the law? Because I didn't see that.
Okay.
We have that in our regulation, and I think as going forward, that's going to be made available for the public to comment.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, Brandon, did you have anything to say to that? Any thoughts from your perspective?
I think from our perspective, adding the renewable chemical and bio-based manufacturing references, it was our intent for USDA to be able to remove the 51% rule. I mean, we didn't explicitly say that, but that would be our intent.
And see, we kind of saw that in the conference bill. It seemed to me that the Senate version and in the conference bill, that was clearly indicated. But when it got to what became law, what the secretary or the president signed into law, that language was not in the statute. So that's kind of why we're looking for some general and in some cases very specific guidance as to how this program will be administered with respect to these two new features.
Yeah, well, there was, like you said, it was something that y'all had done through rulemaking, so it wasn't something that we explicitly addressed in the bill language, but certainly that would be our preference.
Okay, well, we'll keep in touch and be eager to watch as all these rules are promulgated. Jeff Goodman, got a question for you. Does biodegradable have any role with regard to biopreferred?
The two things are related, but there's no direct role. Many bio-based products are by design biodegradable, and many other bio-based products by design are not. And so our program is based on the bio-based content and not its characteristic of degradability or not, depending upon the use of the product. So, for example, some of the bioplastics that you have in certain contexts and uses, you very much want not to be biodegradable. Other products you very much want to be biodegradable, and it just depends on the use. Both can be buyer-preferred. Both can apply for labels based on their bio-based content, regardless of biodegradability.
Okay, thank you. Another question kind of relates to the relative ranking of like recycled content versus bio-based content, and in particular, are federal procurement officials obligated to use recycled content when maybe, hypothetically, a superior bio-based product would be available? I'm thinking along the lines of engine oil, for example, recycled engine oil versus some of the newer bio-based materials that are available.
Yeah, this isn't particularly my strong suit to answer, but my understanding is that there's certainly nothing in our program that does anything to remove the obligations under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act to use recycled materials. So I think my understanding is, in the strictest sense, the desirability of a bio-based product and its overall effectiveness would not eliminate the need to use recycled products that derives from the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act.
Okay. And then relative to product categories, the question relative to, like, say, paper and office supplies. I know this has got to be caught up somewhat in your innovative approach to products, including forest products, but do you anticipate adding a category like paper products or office supply kinds of materials?
Yes.
Okay. Good, nice answer. Okay. Go ahead.
And as Tony was saying, that some things will be really worked out by rule when we go to amend our program guidelines to consider the including innovative forestry products. That would include, of course, paper. We're very likely when we get down to doing the rulemaking and we've done this in several instances already in our designations, to establish subcategories, and some of those subcategories would possibly have different bio-based content. So, for example, I've got on my desk here a bio-based steno pad that's made from bagasse paper, and that might be different from ultimately when we designate it from a bio-based steno pad or a paper product that's made from wood pulp.
Okay, well, thank you, Brandon, Jeff, and Tony. We really appreciate your participation in our webinar today. Turn it back over to Ron to wrap up.
All right. I'd also like to thank everyone who's joined us as participants this afternoon. We hope that you will join us again for our next OBN event, which will be in April on the 25th. And that will be a webinar on our upcoming international trade show and conference, Bioproducts World Showcase and Conference 2014. It's going to be October 5th through 8th in Columbus, Ohio. And this showcase is going to represent a unique opportunity for biomass producers, bioproduct manufacturers, retailers, and government procurement officials, and also traditional manufacturers to really come together and form business relationships that will take bioproduct markets and manufacturing to the next level. And we're very excited about that opportunity, both for our members and for the bioproduct industry as a whole. If you're not yet a member of the OBIC Bioproduct Network, I want to encourage you to visit our website and find out more and download one of our membership applications. Membership in the OBIC Bioproduct Network will ensure your access to great programming opportunities such as our networking events, our annual meeting. Will also help keep you and your company at the forefront of happenings in the bioproducts industry. Again, I want to thank you for participating in our webinar today, and we look forward to having you join us again soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Hey, Brandon, Ron?
Lisa Lee, she had
Stop recording.